What up, guys? So today picked up the VStar 950 for a customer. We do some fresh oil and some fresh brake fluid. Let's get her unloaded.
All right, guys, so we're just gonna get this unloaded. I don't have a driveway, so use a Kendon trailer that I can keep in my garage. Got it off Marketplace. It's great. I like it. Keep it inside. It's very helpful. Get it up on the lift. Get the bike nice and warm before you drain that oil. Always want to make sure it is up to temp. Get it up on the lift. Get everything rolling. Get my oil pan. One thing I noticed on this bike when I took the oil pan out or oil plug out, it didn't have a crush washer on it. So make sure you put one of those back on. Before you drain any oil, always make sure you can get the fill cap loose. So I'm just going to loosen that. Also, it just allows air to flow through the engine. Make sure you get everything drained out. You're going to need a 17 mil socket to break that oil plug or drain plug loose. Crack it loose. This one was crazy tight and didn't have a crush washer, which was wild. Don't go crazy, tighten them things back up. You'll strip it out. Drain my oil. One thing I do have to let you guys know, it was a little over 100 degrees the day that I filmed this, and my camera's overheated and stopped recording, and it did not record me reinstalling the drain plug or changing out the oil filter. Oil filter is right on the front of this engine. Very easy to do. I used a high flow 204. I use high flows for everything. I love it. Um, Also, big fan of Motul engine oil. If you want Mobile One or whatever, use whatever. But this is what I used. I used the Motul 7100. Filled it up. The bike does take just over 4 quarts, so should be able to just use the whole thing and dump the whole thing in. So I'm going to speed this up. Once you have it full, you're going to want to make sure you run your bike. I like to run it for I don't know, 30 seconds is probably enough. Really, what you want to make sure is that oil flows through that engine and the oil filter fills up. Then you're going to insert your plug back in. This is me right before I started it, so I'm just filling it back up. Just filled all the oil. Now we're going to run it. To check the oil level, this is what you're looking for. You're going to set that dipstick back on. Do not thread it back in. You can just set it down. That's going to give you your oil level. You'll see there's a little mark on the top, and that means we're full. We're on the money. Some bikes will have a glass sight. This one has a dipstick. Personally, I think the glass sights are a little bit easier, but this is fine. Then we're going to move on to the brake flush. First thing, I started with the front. Pull those two Phillips head screws out. They won't be tight at all. If they are, something's wrong. And then you're going to have a little diaphragm inside of there. This bike had a ton of corrosion, so I grabbed a little brake clean on a rag and cleaned it. You want to be very careful when you take this apart. You do not want any dirt falling into that reservoir. The other thing is brake fluid will ruin paint. So be very careful not to spill anything. Just take your time. I apologize. I was doing this one-handed, trying to hold the camera, so it's a little shaky, but it's pretty straightforward. Once you get those screws off, there'll be like a little bit of suction just from like the fluid in there, but you'll be able to pull this off. And again, just there's gonna be some fluid in that diaphragm, so um, be careful because it's gonna drip all over. So try to keep it all in that reservoir if you can. You'll see when I take this out how nasty this old fluid is. It legitimately looks like Coca-Cola. Gross. It should be clear like apple juice or, Coors Light. Best beer on the planet. Now that I have that open and cleaned up, I use my Mighty Vac. I'm gonna suck everything out of there, get all that nasty. You can see how dark it is. It's gotta be the original. I got a feeling he just never changed it. Manufacturer also says to change the lines. Um, I don't think anyone ever does that unless you're on the track all the time. This guy is just a casual cruiser, so we're not gonna go crazy. You can see how dark it is. Once I got that emptied out, I'm gonna move on to my bleeder, hooking my Mighty Vac up to my bleeder. There should be a dust cover on there, so make sure you take it off and then put the hose right on there. You can do this with two people if you want, but if you have a Mighty Vac, you can do it by yourself. It's way easier. But if you want to do it with a second person, just hook a little hose up to a container and have somebody apply pressure to the brakes. They're just gonna have to keep doing it. I use liquid moly full synthetic .4 for this. You'll see how clear it is compared to the stuff that came out of there. However, there's still a bunch of dirty stuff in those lines. That's what we want to get out. We want clear fluid through the whole thing. So I'm going to pump pressure through the Mighty Vac, open the bleeder, allow that stuff to come out. Make sure we have no air and no dirty fluid. You're looking for clear fluid coming through and no air bubbles. I probably do this a few more times than you actually need to, but I want to make sure it's perfect. The other thing is keep an eye on your reservoir. Make sure you don't let it go down to nothing, so you suck air in. That's what you don't want. Once you're done, put everything back the way you found it. Put that diaphragm back in. Cover back on. And then we have our cover plate. Again, it's just two little Phillips screws. These are very soft metals holding them in, so you do not need to tighten them like crazy. Make sure they're nice and snugged up. You're good to go. And that's it. Front brake flush is done. Last thing we need to do is just clean up after ourselves. There's always going to be a little bit of residue left over on the bleeder, so be careful when you pull that hose out. There's probably going to be a little bit of fluid in there, and again, it will ruin paint, so try not to make a mess. And then I just use a little bit of brake clean on a towel, wipe it down. Good to go. That's it. Last thing, most important thing, put your freaking dust covers back on. People never do this, they lose them, and then the bleeders end up seized on there. Just put the freaking cover on. It's the easiest thing to do. Then we're gonna move on to the back. There's a little 4mm hex nut holding this cover on, keeping the cap on the rear res. Take that little nut out, cover comes off, and the reservoir is free. Pro tip, always make sure you can crack your bleeders loose before you start draining fluid out of anything. Now that I know my bleeder is free, I'm going to open this up and I'm going to apply the same process. Get my old stuff out of the reservoir, fill it with new, and suck the clean fluid through there and make sure I have no air, full pressure, and nice clean fluid coming through. Be very careful when you take these diaphragms out the front and the back. Again, you do not want any dirt anywhere, so make sure you got them on a nice clean rag. If you can't, cover it with a nice clean rag. Just no dust, no nothing. If somebody's working around you, just make sure, because they're wet. Anything that's blowing around is going to stick to it, so just keep it clean. When you're doing this, you can fill it to the top. Um, Make sure you bleed it out enough times for both the front and the back that it's not filled to the top when you put it back together. If you leave it filled to the absolute tippy top and you put that diaphragm back in there, you're gonna overflow brake fluid all over the place. So just be careful. Make sure you get enough out. The bleeder on this bike was right up against the swing arm. It's in like a really weird tight location, so I couldn't get the best view, but um, I got it hooked up, and then again, just apply the same process. Make sure we have pressure. Crack the bleeder. There we go. Again, I probably do this more times than is needed, but I want to make sure I have clear fluid and no air, and everything is exactly the way that it should be. All right, now that I got clear fluid, all my air is out, I'm just gonna put everything back together. Put that diaphragm in. Again, I can't stress it enough, make sure it's clean. You don't want any dirt in there. Put my cap back on. And then we'll just put that cover back on with that little 4 mil nut. Easy peasy. Again, these are soft nuts, so like don't crank it down. You're gonna snap it. Just make sure it's tight. Don't go crazy. I love to use T-handles for bikes because you can't put a crazy amount of leverage on it, and the odds of you snapping anything is unlikely. Same process. We're gonna clean everything up with some brake fluid, or I'm sorry, brake cleaner. Put our dust cover back on. She's good to go. We now have fresh oil, fresh brake fluid front and back. Everything is cleaned up. Bike should be good to go. It's a pretty easy thing to do for yourself at home if you want to take it on. The last thing we always want to do for a customer is just set their tire pressures. Easiest thing to do, just set it for them. Can't make it any simple. Now I'm done. I'm always going to take the bike for a test drive and make sure everything is good, but I hope this was helpful. I hope you guys like this, and if it was, or you guys want to see more stuff, please subscribe, shoot a comment, hit a like button. All the support, I love it, and we'll try to keep more videos coming. Thank you guys.